Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I have Logan with me. Logan, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good, Jeremy. I'd say vibes are at a all-time high in Xboxville right now.
Yeah, it's been a good week. As people may know, we weren't doing a show last week because of Independence Day and all that stuff, and the aliens were here. But yeah, we've had a good week, like especially today. But other than like the whole Activision stuff, there's been a lot of game news, and I'm looking at the list of topics, and it's all positive. We are in the green, literally, and it's all good. But before we get into all the main topics, Logan, have you been playing anything interesting?
Yeah, I just finished Aliens Dark Descent. Man, that sucker was hard. That was a tough game, my goodness, but I loved it. It was great. It was a brilliant tactics game. If you love Aliens, the films or the books or the other games, the lore, definitely this thing is your cup of tea. Jump in. If strategy games are difficult or frustrating to you, just you know what? There is definitely no shame in playing this on story mode or easy, like because even on normal, for someone who's experienced with these type of games, this was agonizingly difficult game. So just go in, put it on a super light difficulty, and just experience it for the story if you want. Or if you're a sadist and you want to just scream out in frustration a bunch, then play it on a harder difficulty. But it's a brilliant game, man.
Nice. I've pretty much just been playing stuff that's already out, plus some indie games. I've been playing Ravenlock. It's a
Great game.
it's kind of a light RPG. It's in Game Pass. It's very much inspired by Alice in Wonderland. It's pretty much Alice in Wonderland, just with more swords. And that game's really good. I'm about 80% through the game. If people want like a really light-hearted, just fun adventure game, and I think it's total, like the whole adventure might be around 10 hours long, if that. Very easy game, and even if you're struggling, you can put it on even an easier difficulty. It's a very chilled game, and if people are new to the game, and I highly recommend people play this to maybe this like loved one or something, because like it's really good. Other than that, I've been playing the Sea of Stars demo. Wow, like Logan, have you played that yet?
I haven't played the demo, but I plan on jumping in. I'm super stoked that's finally coming to Xbox.
Yeah, that was a weird situation because it was announced for everything else except Xbox, and we didn't know what was going on for the longest time. And then all of a sudden, it was just announced out of nowhere for Xbox. And then about a month ago, it was announced to be coming launch day in Game Pass, which, hey, awesome times. But they put out the demo, and even though progress doesn't transfer over, they said there's things in the demo that doesn't happen in the game, so I think people should still play it anyway. But yeah, what a good game. Like, if people want a Super Nintendo inspired JRPG, this is for them. And it's not even that hard, in my opinion. You can change stuff in the settings. There's actually items you get called relics. You can activate one if you want the game harder, and activate a different one if you want the game easier. But like, it's like got this verticality to it, so you can like jump up and climb down levels. It's a beautiful game, an absolutely beautiful game. There's actually a documentary coming out next month before the game comes out, which I highly recommend people watch because I love video game documentaries. There's not enough, in my opinion. But yeah, excellent demo, and I honestly can't wait to play it. That's gone to one of my most anticipated games of the year, and it's a 16-bit, SNES-style JRPG, and it's great, yeah. And apparently it's made by like one person or something. Like, it's crazy that one person's doing that. The story's funny, the characters are good. I mean, what can I say? If people are finding it hard to get into JRPGs, play this. It's super easy. Everything's explained. There's a directory that literally explains every aspect of the game. And other than that, GTA 5, the next gen version, that got announced for Game Pass last week, and I've been playing it. And look, I've mentioned on the podcast before, I've been addicted to GTA Online in the past, to the point where I actually uninstalled it and didn't play it for about 3 years because I was literally addicted to it. So I didn't play it for a long time. Then they put a casino in the game, and I was thinking, thank God I didn't actually continue to play it. But, I thought I'd play the next gen stuff. I'm just sticking to the story, and wow, that game plays completely differently at 60 frames per second. I was shocked. Like, Logan, have you played the next gen version of that yet?
I haven't. I had the Xbox One version and I never upgraded, but now that there's a Game Pass version, I'll hop in and know, take a test drive on it, see what I think.
Like, I've bought that game twice. I said I'm not going to give Rockstar the same amount of money for the third game for the third. There's the same game for the third time. I just couldn't do it. And I might buy it on sale at some point because I love the story for that game. But yeah, if people haven't played it in a long time, go back to it and play the next gen version. Obviously, you can still play in first person if you want, but the 60 frame stuff, you've got ray traced shadows. You can play it in performance mode while having ray tracing, and it just looks really good. But the aiming is way better at 60 and all that stuff. But yeah, great game, and that's pretty much all we've been playing. I will say this though, I think Game Pass, as you can tell by last week's list, it's obviously getting better by the months, and I've looked at some of games coming out next week, which we're going to talk about in a bit. I know for the past few months it's been a bit slow for Game Pass because big titles have been signed with PlayStation, and as we could tell, there's not really been any big, massive AAA games in Game Pass day one, third party wise, and it looks like that's going to change. Anyway, excuse me, we'll move on with the rest of the topics. Now, it's a spicy show today because, again, it's nothing but good stuff. So, okay, we should talk about the Twitter stuff before we get into the rest of the topics. Like, the gaming space on Twitter is where it's at. I don't care if someone's hardcore in Instagram, Facebook, or anything else. The gaming community at large is on Twitter. That's where people talk about stuff. That's where people share their clips, their opinions, everything. And even though it has the lowest install base when it comes to social media, it's the one people talk about the most. Like, everyone talks about Twitter because information is instant. And I've been using Twitter since 2006. I've only really had my main account since 2012. But the main draw to Twitter is the feed, right? It's in chronological order. The only things you can see is recommended posts, shared posts, and your own, basically. And I think that's where other social media platforms fail. Like Facebook, it's all random. I can log into Facebook and see a post from 6 months ago that hasn't been shared by anyone. And that's what's the biggest draw to Twitter is. It shows you what you want. Even though they have added different things over the past few months, Twitter, gaming is where it's at. So when Elon Musk introduced the rate limit, I've never heard of a website introducing a read limit. Like, Logan, have you ever heard that before?
I mean, maybe for temporary measures if they're having like a security thing or like they're having an overloaded servers or something, but just out of the blue like that, no. I don't think so.
So whenever there's like a small problem with Twitter, and I've done this, I'm guilty, of where we all freak out and we look for a website and a service that looks and performs exactly like Twitter. We did this whole song and dance 7 months ago where we all tried to move to Hive or Mastodon, and what happened? 2 weeks later, everything was back to normal and we stayed on Twitter. And the same thing happened this past week. People start losing it. We were looking for a Twitter alternative. I even logged back into Hive and people were posting again. And it's just not the same. The community is on Twitter. So Facebook introduced and they were hyping up Threads. And bear in mind, Threads has been in development for 2 years, right? Like, this isn't just an all of a sudden thing because of Elon Musk. Like, Twitter and Threads was always going to be a thing anyway. And it's technically part of Instagram. It's an Instagram app. So if you have an Instagram account, you literally have to tap one button and you're signed in and you're good to go. But they launched the thing early because there was clearly people mad at Elon Musk. But after they raised the read limit to 1,000 for regular users on Twitter, I have not had the rate limit exceeded message in about a week and a half. So this whole ordeal of people freaking out hasn't really affected most people outside of the first 2 days. Like, Logan, have you had the rate limit exceeded in the past week?
I actually never did. Of course, disclosure, I'm a blue check mark, I guess, but because, edit and the features I wanted, nothing to do with the check mark, I promise. It's a fallacy, whatever. So I never had that issue, but I did see a lot of people complain about it, and I get it, and I would be irritated too. Like, if this was my social media gathering place, and all of a sudden I'm being basically, lopped at the knees where I can't, get social media content or, express this or share this or talk to this person, I'd be pretty irritated too. So I totally get why people were mad. I'm glad it's been fixed. But like you said, everybody's been looking for these quote Twitter life rafts to get off of.
Yeah.
Like abandoned ship, it's going down. And then lo and behold, they always come back. And the ship just somehow just keeps on going. It's like that Leviathan dreadnought. It just keeps on chugging along this unsinkable ship. And I just I don't know. That's why I don't get too invested in the freakouts about Twitter because, experience has shown that it'll get sorted.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I freaked out. Excuse me. I freaked out because, like, I love Twitter. I've been using Twitter for a large portion of my life. It's how I get my news. It's where I like to post. And Twitter it's very fun. Like, people that use Twitter, and I know I know this is an Xbox podcast, but we have to mention it because of what I'm about to talk about. Gaming on Twitter has been huge for years. There's communities on Twitter. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be makeup, wrestling, all kinds of sports. Comic books, movies, video games is a large portion of Twitter. But most people that use Twitter don't actually post. Most people that use Twitter just log in to read other people's posts.
Lurkers.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them lurkers. I think there's people that create accounts that just like to be weird, and like there's people that follow me just to like stalk us, and then they make another account. But like most people that just log in just like to read posts. Like I used to be on Twitter that way back from like 2006 to 2012, and that's fine. But I think the big problem is that all of those people, or at least a lot of them, have moved to Threads and they're not posting. So the only post you're seeing is people make fun of Twitter, and there's no community there. There's no community at all. Like you have all the meme accounts moving over, at least posting there as well, and it's just not the same. It's not the same. Threads lacks about 90% of the features that makes Twitter good. The search function doesn't do anything outside of searching for people's like names. You can't search for posts. You can't use hashtags. Like I was mind blown. I've never seen any service in over a decade where hashtags don't work. Like they're not a thing. And I was like, am I back in the Stone Age all of a sudden? Do I have like one of those like spinny dial-up phones? Like it was weird. And the truth is, while people freak out every time Elon Musk changes something, again, I'm guilty of this twice, by the way. Twitter's staying around. The gaming sphere is still going to stay around. But the good news is that Twitter has direct competition now, which will push them to be even better. So Twitter isn't going away, but Threads will improve, which that'll get Twitter to be even better. So like, there's never been competition for Twitter. There's no competition for Facebook. There isn't a Facebook alternative, and that's why Facebook's to hell at the minute. So I just wanted to put that out there because gaming, folks, we all over Twitter. Anyway, we'll continue. But Logan, just wondering, did you actually make a Threads account?
No, I did not because basically the only Instagram I've ever used has been just essentially to follow like my sports teams or athletes and like random goofy stuff they post every once in a while because Instagram is like really tied into NBA just like Twitter is. It's kind of a little bit different for gaming. I've never really seen much gaming stuff on there. Like there's gaming accounts, but it's not like Twitter is for gaming. So I've mainly just lurked on Instagram, so I didn't make a Threads, and I figured I could always make one if Twitter actually sunk, and lo and behold, it hasn't. So I'm still flying with the Twitter birds at this point.
Yeah, I think most people are going to be like that. Again, it'll be good to have competition, like how Xbox and PlayStation are competition with each other. If one went away, the other one would go to crap, basically. But yeah, we'll get into all the gaming stuff now. You know, Logan, you told me just before the show went live that NBA 2K is actually going to be a cross-platform player now, which is actually big.
That's a big news because I'm a big NBA junkie guy, so I've been watching Summer League and NBA Con happened for the first time ever, which is basically the NBA has embraced a Comic Con or BlizzCon type event for just NBA stuff, meet and greets, autographs, interviews, talk, contest, games, fun stuff. Even had a Call of Duty contest at one of the Summer League events, and a player from my team, the Thunder, won, so that was fun. But yeah, it's going to be crossplay now. They announced via several announcements with NBA stars that you can play with your friends cross platforms now, which is a big deal for a major franchise to finally embrace it.
You know, before we continue, we have the first super chat of the day by Nick W for the $4.99. Thank you very much. He says, so excited about the ABK deal finally being done. Hopefully the ABK games get put on Game Pass soon. Be right there with you, man. It's been a long 18 months.
Yes.
Like, long. And the podcast is still on the channel. Like, you can go back and hear me say, back in January last year, it'll all be done in a month. Like, oh, how naive I was. It was 18 months is a long time. Especially like in the gaming space when like obviously you're waiting for new titles and more gaming news. And it's been torture, man. Like every single episode of this podcast for the past 18 months has had some mention of the ABK deal because we haven't known what's going to happen. And the bulk of the gaming news has been that, unfortunately. But we're in the end game now, baby. It's finally getting done, and we're going to be talking about that in a bit, but it's going to be exciting. But yeah, thank you very much for the super chat, Nick W. It's, yeah. We'll be talking about that stuff in a bit. But yeah, the crossplay stuff, that's big, man. I think FIFA already has crossplay. I think Madden also has crossplay in that. Like, I think all these multiplayer games, they should just include it because at the end of the day, they're going to have the biggest pool of players. Like every time I see one of these indie games gets announced and it's like a multiplayer game and they don't have crossplay, I know that within maybe a year the multiplayer is going to be dead. Like we've seen it happen in the past year where there's been like a few months ago, Cremble Logan, there was like 10 online games announced to be like just ending service, and all of them didn't have crossplay.
Yeah, not a coincidence, one thinks.
Yeah, because, like, let's say, like, Exo Primal, right? So Exo Primal, I think, is going to be huge. It's coming to Game Pass day one on the 14th of this month, so very close. And that is a multiplayer-only game. I believe they have said it's going to get crossplay down the line, which is great news. But, like, if you had something like that without crossplay altogether, as time goes on, it's just going to be harder to find matches. Look at Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Mass Effect 3 came out in 2012. Its multiplayer is still going. I still play it occasionally, and there's still people playing. It's great. But it's bad luck when I log on and sometimes I play against the same people I've seen like a few weeks prior. Like there's so few people playing, and that game does not have crossplay between Xbox and PlayStation 3, unfortunately. So it's a shame. Hopefully more games include it because there's literally nothing bad about it. Like maybe there is with like PC crossplay and Call of Duty, which I've had issue with, but like as for consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch should all be playing together. It just makes sense. Like look at Fall Guys, by the way. Fall Guys has been around for 2 years or something, 3 years, and that game has crossplay with everything, and it's never difficult to find a match. Because there's millions of people playing every day. On Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, easy. But yeah, good to know that's coming to NBA 2K, and hopefully we see it in future games like GTA 6 and all that stuff. Oh my god, we have a lot of topics. Oh, okay, we have to talk about this. Logan, did you watch Bandai Namco's Summer Showcase?
I did not this
Okay,
time. What did I miss?
you missed nothing. So
Oh, so good.
yeah, like so you know how Sony they had the crown for the worst show, and then Capcom came along.
Capcom's was pretty bad too.
Yeah, Capcom came along and took the crown. Like that show was bad. Bandai, they have two crowns. It's possibly one of the worst showcases I've ever seen in my entire life. So normally, a showcase you either have someone on stage presenting games and then they show trailers, right? Pretty standard stuff. And then sometimes you just have, the way directs are and the way PlayStation's shows are. It's where it's just trailer, end, right? We are used to those formats. Bandai Namco's format, I'm not even kidding, was in the style of a Comic-Con panel. Absolutely awful. Like, there was a little crowd there. There was people sitting on behind a table answering questions and just showing little snippets of upcoming games. It was absolutely awful. Awful. And all the people in chat, there was like 70,000 people watching on the stream. I was watching anyway, and it was just people complaining, like just L's and Z's in chat. And normally I try to give a publisher a bit of a break when it comes to a showcase. This wasn't it. They hyped up this showcase like it was going to be Christmas Part 2, and it was awful. It was so bad it was good in a way. Like, if people want to see a bad showcase, go and watch 2009's Konami showcase. That's so bad it's good. And this was up there. It was bad. And you could tell that they thought they were doing something good. And then, close to the end of the show, they're like, right, we have some giveaways. And they got out this massive Gundam. It was like a really expensive one. I think it's the kind of Gundam that's like £250 or something, right? And they kind of made it sound like everyone in the crowd was going to get one, but only one person did. It was just the way they worded it, and it was just a major disappointment. So, publishers, if anyone's listening, do not do a showcase in the style of a Comic-Con panel. Because when I watch Comic-Con panels on YouTube, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting a panel of people talking. This was not it. They never announced trailers and games this way, and they didn't really announce anything other than a new Sword Art Online game, which is also coming to Xbox. But I mean, I think we've gotten the past several Sword Art Online games. Hopefully in the future they'll actually add some English dub. But yeah, that was an awful showcase. Like, historically bad. But yeah, people really need to go back and watch Konami 2009. It was extremely bad. I might actually watch it later.
Is that the one with the flute guy? Or am I thinking of a different one?
I think that was Sony showcase from a few years ago.
Okay.
But like Konami, they had wrestlers standing on stage that nobody knew. They had people come out just looking weird. There was a developer keep talking about like how extreme his game is and how there's like 1 million thieves. It was terrible. It was so bad though. It was amazing. And actually, now that I think about worst showcases, Activision did a showcase. I think it was 2008, 2009, where Jamie Kennedy came out on stage drunk. And he presented the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was bad. I kind of missed that era of E3 where sometimes you got a really good showcase, but most of them were just awful. Like, absolutely awful. I remember Xbox had a showcase where, like, Usher came out on stage, and the problem is with music performances at a game showcase is that everyone's sitting down. They're mostly journalists, so they're sitting there with their notepads, waiting for games to be announced, and then someone starts, like, coming out and dancing and singing, and it just doesn't work. Like, I might watch some of those later, but yeah, bad showcase all around. We have some really good news, and I think you may have missed this, Logan. Sega has announced that they are not going to make any NFT games after all. Apparently the president came out and said, NFT games are boring. That is music to my ears. Logan, I know...
Smart man.
Yeah, like... We've all seen those snippets of like Square Enix's upcoming like game where only 3 people will ever experience the ending and the rest of us will just watch it on YouTube. This is a good move because NFTs died a year ago. Nobody cares. And the only people plugging NFTs on Twitter now is basically people trying to get rid of their own. There is no market for NFTs in gaming. At all. Someone can come out tomorrow and say, hey, look at these Mass Effect NFTs, and I'll tell them where to shove them, because we get monetized enough in video games as it is. There's some games now charging £80 or $80. So like you tell someone else that, hey, we don't just have microtransactions in this game, which we do. The game is also $70 or $80, but we're also going to have these little things in the game called NFTs where you own it. You own this stupid cap with a number on it, but you can sell it. Like it's the dumbest idea in the history of anything. I don't know who would. It's like, imagine the horse armor, right? But you can have this horse armor. There's only one horse armor with the number 1 on it, but you can own it if you pay real money for it, and then you could sell it later on. Who gives a shit? Like I don't understand people that. I think people that like NFTs are people that can't afford to do stock markets. I'm putting it out there. Like everyone that talks about NFTs in gaming, they talk about people that know the stock market. It's like it's never made any sense to me. Logan, the death of NFT gaming is finally here, at least with Sega. What are your thoughts, man? Because it's good.
Sing and dance. That's great news. And, I'm just glad that Sega, just like they put their games in Game Pass and put them on multi-platforms and don't make games called Film Stars and don't do NFTs, like, they seem to have a good head on their shoulders right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be wondering, anyone in chat, like, have you ever played a video game, saw maybe a little microtransaction, maybe a cool t-shirt in a game or something, and thought, you know what? I want to own that. I want to own the only version of that. Like, no, gamers don't think like that. Like, we see something cool. Like, I've never paid for a microtransaction. Ever. And I don't see the point, personally. I've never really seen anything that I like. Like, hell, I've bought one season pass, I should say one battle pass, ever in my entire life. And that's for Fall Guys, right? It cost £6 and I used Microsoft Rewards. And I rinsed every single penny out of that battle pass, right? So, like, I made sure to get my money's worth, even though I bought it with points. But I just don't see the value in owning a digital item. That does not make any sense to me. But yeah, it's good to know that these publishers are finally, listening. Gamers don't want this. Ubisoft, they were the first ones to try it. They were like, hey, this cool game, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which took us a year and a half to fix and put simple features in that you had in the last game? Well, we're going to put these things in called Quartz, Ubisoft Quartz. It's going to be our NFT system, and you're going to be able to transfer these items to different games in the Ubisoft lineup. And then 6 months later, they're like, yeah, we're finishing development and all support for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Anyway, have a good day. like, and I noticed the NFT people online didn't bat an eye. They didn't really figure it out. Like, no, your little cap with a skull on it, that's not going to work in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Like, I could promise you that. And yeah, death of NFTs in gaming. It's here. It's beautiful. I love it. And hopefully Square's next. Like, look, if you're on Xbox, chances are you're not going to get any of Square Enix's games going forward. But we don't want a single publisher on Earth pushing this crap because it doesn't benefit anyone. It pushes developers to make things deliberately for a service like that. And we're getting nickeled and dimed as it is. So why do we want more of it? Logan, I didn't have this as a topic, but we may as well talk about it because, we've talked about game prices a lot and how that I personally think video games that cost £70 or $70 it's stupid. It's a stupid price unless you can get it in a sale or, get your discount with Game Pass or whatever. £70 is too much to ask for a game. Same as $70. Well, I noticed a few weeks ago that Ni no Kuni 2 on Xbox is £80, right? £80. So it's a remaster or like a new release that's basically a port on Xbox of what, a 6-year-old game, 7-year-old game, and it's £80. It's £10 more than the quote-unquote new price. Bit weird, isn't it? And basically, about a week ago, the new EA football game, I think it's called FC 2023 or 2024, because they're no longer FIFA, it started being listed online for $80. $80. Thankfully, not £80 because that's like $95 or something. But like $80, and I've said it to you before, Logan, on the channel. I've mentioned it in videos. Like, there's some publishers right now. They are extremely interested in testing if $80 games will sell in the US. Now, Logan, that's a lot of money for a game. Do you think the US game market is ready for an $80 game?
I would say a resounding no for the most part. I do think that if there were games that could, quote, get away with it, it would probably be the Call of Duties or the FIFAs or the Maddens or the 2Ks. Like these, annual release games that, especially the sports games, because they make it to where instead of just making a game and then they sell you an expansion every year to update rosters or whatever, which is frankly how I think they should do it, and it's more fair to people. They just resell the game just tweaked up a little bit. You see a little bit more sweat on the players, or you have a different my career approach for your player, or it's like, oh, you can start out in the Chinese league or the G League or wherever, like all these different spots. Like they throw in different little elements to it, but are basically the same game, just with some new names on the back of the logos and some new character models to represent new players and stuff. And so you're like, $80 for that? Really? How is that justifiable? I don't think it's justifiable at all. I just think they can get away with it because sports fans, and especially sports fans who are also gaming fans, get really hooked in this stuff. And sports is like it's like a ritual. It's like, a religion. It's like you've got this every year. It's like, I need this so I can have the current up to date just drafted or just traded for or whatever players, and with the latest updates to play with my friends. And then I want all the the shoes or the Foot Locker codes or this or that or whatever. And they're like, I'm gonna play this so much, I'm gonna pour so many hours into it, gonna play it online with my friends, this or this, to where they can talk themselves into it. But at the end of the day, is the quality of the experience worth that? I would say definitely not. But, again, that's one man's opinion.
I mean, you're right. Like, I think that sports games shouldn't be out yearly. I think that's stupid. Like, people make fun of Call of Duty because it comes out every year, but you have different teams alternating between different years. But when you look at FIFA, you have a game, and it's the same with Madden and all those other sports games. That developer doesn't have a year. Like, the game has to be marketed and announced and released and all that stuff, but those sports games are basically made on a 9-month cycle. I've spoken to someone that works on FIFA before, and they literally make games within 9 months. Like, that is crazy. And, people in the past have bought like new versions of Madden, and they've noticed like it said like the wrong year on the Madden stadium because they've just literally ported everything over, slapped a new sticker on it. Like, if people want to see someone get angry, watch Angry Joe's reviews of Madden. They are hilarious because they use the same assets and just slap a different sticker on it. And this FIFA thing, I put it like this: like, sports games should not be released annually. You are paying for a roster update and maybe a few features, right? I remember FIFA 08 came out, and I played it, and I was thinking, wow, they have something here, but it's still terrible. Because Pro Evolution Soccer was the de facto big football game, right? And then FIFA 09, to this day, is still my favorite football game. I played that, and most people in the UK played it, and I was like, this is it, right? They changed the gameplay. It had mini games. The campaign was good. The create a character mode was good. Everything about it was great, right? They had Ultimate Team, which was this new thing at the time, and it wasn't monetized to hell like it is now, and it was amazing. By the way, I want that game to be backwards compatible, and I know it's impossible, but still. But anyway, when FIFA 10 came out, I remember playing it thinking, it looks the same. It plays actually worse, and it's basically the same game. So I never got FIFA 11, I never got FIFA 12, and then I got FIFA, I think it was FIFA 13. Sorry, I got FIFA 14 as a pack-in with my Xbox One, and I played it. I'm like, oh, this is nice. But then every time I played a FIFA after that, it was just the same but worse. And these sports games now are at a point where you are paying the same thing every year, and they say they've got upgrades, they remove features, and then they put them in later, and now they want to charge more money for them. Like when the Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 came out, we kind of just had to accept that a lot of these games were going up in price. But sports games, you are getting charged more for the same crap or sometimes even worse stuff. Like, look at Zelda. Like, same generation of console, and they raised the price of Zelda to 70. Like, and I've mentioned this
Switch tax, baby.
Yeah, the Switch tax. And I've mentioned before, like, we shouldn't sit back and accept all these price increases. And I've mentioned it before, these developers are trying really hard to figure out a way how they can sell us $80 games. That's happening right now, behind the scenes. And look at Ubisoft, right? I play a lot of their games. If you go to their Avatar game on the Xbox store right now, it's, $69.99, which is, what everyone else is doing right now. However, their gold version, which they normally have, it's basically the season pass with all the story expansions, is like £20 more than what it would normally cost. So they know that, people like me who buy these open world Ubisoft games that want the expansions, I will get the gold version of a game. I did it with, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Origins, all that stuff. And, you've got the expansions down the line. They start charging more for them, right? So now you're incentivized to spend more because you're going to get those expansions down the line. Whereas before it used to be, if you want the gold version, it'll be £90, but you get expansions for a year. They are trying so hard to try and get more money out of us. And now there's a few games already on the store that are basically charging people 80. And then it's going to be 90. And then 100. And then every so often I see one of these prickhead, like bloody 100,000, like, Twitter followers, like influencers that say, video games should be $120. We're getting a lot of, content out of them. And I say, no, like every other media or medium we complain about, right? Cinema tickets going up, we complain. DVDs and Blu-rays going up in price, we complain about it. Netflix, Disney Plus, or whatever goes up in price, we complain about it. And we sit back and let games go up in price and do absolutely nothing. And the second someone wants to save money on a game, they say, you don't want to pay for games and support the industry. No, we don't want to get nickel and dime for games. That's why people like Game Pass. Because games are charging way too much, and we just let it happen. Video games are going to be $70 when the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 comes out. Just let it happen. And it's getting worse. Microtransactions across the board, worse than ever. Season passes across the board, worse than ever. Expansion passes. Granted, you get less content was what you used to. I remember getting the content pass for Borderlands 1, and I think it was like £10 at the time. And you got like 5 massive expansions. And now we pay more for less, and we just let it happen. I'm not having it. I will always complain about the price thing because, like, look, every time Game Pass gets mentioned, some PlayStation content creators and fans get angry saying, you just want things to be free. No, we don't want things to be free. We want things to be not expensive. There's a difference, right? Game Pass is good because we have options. EA Access is good because we have options. But $80 games, are we going to let that happen next? Are those same people online going to be okay with $90 games? It's stupid. Sorry for complaining again, but Logan, like, other than the whole, like, you have these people that play sports games every year that will probably cave in and buy it, because I know there's people that die hard play FIFA every year. They will pretty much pay no matter what money tag's slapped on it. Like, do you think the £80 mark or $80 mark might actually be the breaking point for people?
For those people, no, to be honest. I think for a average casual gamer who's kind of just like, hey, I want to get it and play with my friends a little bit here and there, but they're not like big into gaming or big into that segment. I would say it'll be a turnoff for some people, but for the people who are really into those, like, nah, like, I think they'd pay just about any sticker price on those. I don't think they get sticker shock on those. They're just like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I need those new sweat pixels and the new sneakers and all the other stuff. It's a it's a sick joke at this point. Like they've got these guys good, and they've got them hooked on it, and it's sad. But in a good ideal world, it would just be expansions every year to a FIFA game or a 2K game or a Madden game, and you get the roster update. You know, like pay a few bucks, like 5, 15, 20, who knows, whatever. Just throw out a reasonable price and you get an expansion with the new updates and trades and everything, and then you go about your business instead of having to shell out a whole new game and then now a whole new game and more for just a few tweaks and different names. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I got excited the other day because I saw Trackmania, the Ubisoft like hardcore racing game, is on Xbox, and I went to download it. I was ready to pay for it. And what do you know? You can't buy that game on Xbox, and it's not free to play either. It's listed as free to play, but you have to pay yearly. Yearly. Like,
you have to subscribe to run?
Yeah. Basically, you can fire the game up when you
it's
download
madness.
it. Yeah. And like when it comes to an MMO like World of Warcraft and all that stuff, you know what you're getting into, but Trackmania? Like, a game where you just race around tracks, you have to basically subscribe to play it. Lunacy. It's madness, but yeah, we'll move on. But yeah, people need to be more vocal about these prices because the $80 thing I've noticed being pushed a few times this past month, and it's going to get worse. And again, we're 3 years into the generation, so when next gen comes around in 2028, are we going to expect across the board $80 games? Because that looks like it's going to happen. Anyway, we'll move on. You know, about 46 minutes into the show. If you're enjoying it, please hit like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Comment below what you like, what you don't like, what you're looking forward to this year, and also super chats are live if you want to support the channel or anything read out and answered. So, Logan, we have to talk about Assassin's Creed because there's like 12 games in development. You're a fan of that series, right?
Oh yeah, I'm more a fan of the old school than the new school, but I'm definitely I'm keeping a patient approach with it, and I'm excited to see how they kind of harken back to some of the older stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to go over the Assassin's Creed stuff today because we've still got all the Activision stuff, but this is actually kind of big news, so I'll go over all of them quickly that's in development right now. So we have Assassin's Creed Mirage, which releases this October. It's old school style. It looks perfect. It looks like exactly what I've been wanting for years. You have Assassin's Creed Nexus, which is their VR game, also comes out this year. You have Codename Jade, which comes out next year. It's their mobile game, and it's set in China. Extremely ambitious for a mobile game, and if people are interested, just search it on YouTube. There's hours of gameplay because it leaked like 6 months ago. Next up, we have Assassin's Creed Red, which is their Japan game. I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time for feudal Japan to be in an Assassin's Creed game. Then we have Assassin's Creed Hex, which is meant to be Europe, I believe. Again, that comes out in 2025 or 2026. Then there's Codename Invictus, which is also the name of the best Paco Rabanne aftershave. That's a multiplayer game, comes out in 2025 or 2026. Then there's Codename Nebula, which is a single-player game. It's in the concept phase. Then there's Assassin's Creed Raid, another multiplayer game. Assassin's Creed Echoes, another multiplayer game. Assassin's Creed Nexus VR 2, nobody cares. But the last one, which is the most interesting, and I think this is the one that's probably going to sell the most, and if anything, I'd say it's probably going to sell more than anything I've just listed combined. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remake. Single player. Just greenlit. Now, if you're in the Assassin's Creed, fandom, you know that there's a large portion that say, it's not an Assassin's Creed game, but it's the game that sold millions. Like, I think that's one of the top 3 best Assassin's Creed games when it comes to sales numbers, because it's an incredible game. Like, from start to finish, it's amazing. Like, people that don't like Assassin's Creed love that game. People that just want pirate games love that. And even there's a lot of Assassin's Creed game fans that like that. I love that game. Like, as a Xbox One launch title, I lost my mind. I'm like, I'm a pirate and I'm an assassin at the same time. This is amazing. And yeah, I'm against remakes from like a generation ago or 2 generations ago. In my opinion, you have to be released before the Xbox 360 and PS3 to justify a remake, in my opinion. That is the hill I will die on. I understand things like Dead Space, it made sense, because that franchise was literally dead. But the fact that they wanted to remake one of the best-selling Assassin's Creed games is kind of huge, because I think Ubisoft's finally realizing that, you know, their open world 90-hour RPG Assassin's Creed games, they do have their market. They're going to sell millions. They have several in development already. But I think they are looking to scratch the itch of the 25-hour Assassin's Creed game, which excites me. Because a Mirage launches this October. That's going to be a 25-hour Assassin's Creed game. And I put it like this. Like, I may talk about Assassin's Creed once every week or something on Twitter. That's one of my most anticipated games. I love 25-hour long games because we don't have enough of them. They either like 10 hours long, or we have these 100-hour games where you play for months. And to me, like, them leaning into the whole 25-hour game thing just kind of makes me a bit happy. Like, I love that. Logan, what do you think? Because it is a weird one to bring back, but then again, it's one of the most popular.
Yeah, that one caught my eye because on one hand, I'm with you. Like, I think it's frankly too soon for a remake of that one because it was an Xbox One and PS4 launch title. And they also had, you know, like the versions for 360 and, you know, PS3 as well when it launched. It was one of those, you know, cross gen games. So, and it is my second favorite Assassin's Creed ever. It and the first one are my favorites. And to me, honestly, like, they could have just called it A Pirate's Life or something like that without even Assassin's Creed mentioned on it, and I would have loved it. It was incredible. Like, the ultimate pirate game in my experience. And so I'm really intrigued to see where they go with a remake. Like, would they hearken more on some of the pirate stuff and go even more hardcore into those elements? Would they try to flesh out the story a little bit more with the Assassins and Templars, or try to find maybe a better way to blend them together, or like where they would go with it? So it's definitely one I've got my eye on.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm against remakes that aren't even that old. Like, I think The Last of Us on PlayStation 3 looked good still. Like, that game didn't need a remake at all. But it is what it is. And look, I'll admit, I know for a fact I'm going to buy it. At some point, whenever that launches, I'm going to be there day one. But just to me, like, I don't know. Like, the reason I have this stance is because I fire up 360 games all the time, right? I have a massive library of 360 games. And to me, personally, that generation going back, like, is just aged so well. Like, there's the occasional game that doesn't look that good. Like, Dragon Age Origins was dated when it came out visually.
Oh man, that one's rough now. Yeah.
Yeah, like, maybe that's why it has FPS boost, because it needs some kind of, you know, helping hand. But like, I remember when Dragon Age Origins came out, I was so excited because I got off playing Mass Effect and I'm like, right, so we're gonna have BioWare doing magic and dragons and all that stuff, and I was excited. It was like Christmas Part 3. And I fired it up and I'm like, this looks like it came out 5 years ago. Like, it
the OG Xbox.
yeah, it did look like an OG Xbox game. And I remember playing it, I'm just thinking, like, it has the combat system of KOTOR, it has the visuals of pretty much like KOTOR, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like, visually it's just awful. Like, thankfully Dragon Age 2 is a lot better visually, but like, some games from that generation have aged badly. But in my opinion, the rest has. Like, I noticed Nick Dudley in chat said that the Darkness has aged horribly. That is one of them. Another one I'd say is aged horribly is Prey, the original one. The game mechanics are good. Visually, it's not that good.
Still rough, yeah.
Yeah, still rough. Like the original Just Cause, at the time, its open world was quite impressive, but visually, rough, like really bad. But like outside of that, I think games from that generation look great. Like Halo 4, Fable 2, Gears, the Batman Arkham games, BioShock, all look great in my opinion.
Orange Box looks crazy good too.
Yeah, the orange box looks good. It, like Half-Life 2 is 4K on Series X, and that looks really good still. Like really good. Oblivion looks bad. You can play it in 4K 60 now, but now you've got terrible graphics at 4K 60, so there's that. But like that aside, I don't think Assassin's Creed 4 needs a remake. But on the flip side, I know I'm going to buy it, so screw me, right?
They got you.
yeah, they got me, man. But I mean, I love the fact that they're going to be making more 25-hour long games. Like, I don't know if anyone in chat has experienced this as well, but like every time I play a game now, a big game or AAA, whatever, if I finish it and it's about 20 hours long, I'm extremely satisfied. And I don't know, I feel like we don't get a lot of them. Like, in January, I finished the Crisis Core remake, and it took me 18 hours, 32 minutes to finish that game. And I was like, that was an extremely satisfying story, and it didn't take up weeks or months of my life. And I loved that. But yeah, just thought I'd mention the Assassin's Creed stuff, because they are huge games. People might be getting sick of Assassin's Creed, but it's one of the biggest franchises there is at the end of the day. And, speaking of remakes, Red Dead Redemption is getting a remake. Now, this is another one of those, I don't understand why it needs to be remade, because it's not that old, and it still looks good, in my opinion. However, that game is in a tricky situation, because the source code for that game is all messed up. That's why it never went to PC, because the source code for that game is apparently a complete mess. So, like, even if they wanted to do just a straight-up remaster last generation, they couldn't. Like, at all. It was like Logan, you've heard about the messed up code, right?
This is actually the first I've heard about the code on it.
Right, so it's been out for a few years now that, like, for some reason, developers, like, prior to 2015, just didn't look after source code. Like, they didn't keep that stuff on a server where it was safe. They just like, throw it on like a disk and threw it in a drawer. That's it. And they did that with Red Dead Redemption. One of the best games ever made. They're like, okay. So, it being remade, I understand. It's a big enough IP. The fan base is there. And if you look at it, Red Dead Redemption 2's map consists of most of the first games. You play Red Dead Redemption 2 and you go to the west side of the map, and there's almost all of the map from the first game, but you spend about 10 minutes there. And I always wondered, why? Why did they put the original game's map, remake that in with the new game, when you literally spend about 10 minutes of one quest there, and that's it? There's no incentive to go there whatsoever. There isn't a list of quests and fun people to meet or anything. It just exists. And I've never been able to piece together why. And about a year ago, I thought, well, it kind of makes sense. Like, they just have to import the audio files. You'd have all the game mechanics from Red Dead Redemption 2, like the hunting, the fishing, all the interactions with characters and all that stuff. But in the first game, with the second game's visuals. And to me, that sounds like it's going to be incredible. The reason why I'm mentioning this, and I'm a bit weird with rumors, because I don't like mentioning them unless I think they are 99% going to happen, is because during Rockstar's investor calls, they mentioned that there's 2 previously released games coming out. I'm 100% certain one of them is their Red Dead Redemption remake, which is apparently going to be announced in August. right? And the second one, I 100% believe, and a lot of people aren't going to be happy with the game I'm about to say, it's not GTA 6. I think it's going to be Midnight Club. That game was rated.
That's been gone a while.
Yeah, like that game's been gone a while, but I can bet you this, Logan. I bet more people would be more excited for Max Payne 3 or GTA 4. So
Bully too.
yeah, Bully even. But I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed when Midnight Club's announced. Like, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I think it would be cool if Midnight Club came back in general. But the amount of people that want GTA 4 or Max Payne to come back, like 3, yeah. But yeah, Red Dead Redemption 1 remake is apparently going to be revealed some point in August. And it kind of makes sense. It's going to sell millions. And we still have a long time to go before they announce GTA 6, so there is that. But hey, I'll take more Rockstar games. I will say this though, I'm playing GTA 5 for the third time, third version for the umpteenth time. I'm sick of Los Santos. I need a new map. We used to get multiple Rockstar games, I should say multiple GTAs a generation. And for the past 2 generations, we've gotten one. The same one. So yeah. Just thought I'd mention that because Red Dead Redemption's a big game. Like, Logan, you've played the sequel, right?
I actually haven't played the second one yet, but I played Red Dead Redemption and loved it, the first one.
Okay, well, Red Dead Redemption 2, literal masterpiece. You should really play it at some point. But yeah, we'll move on because, look, Red Dead, I think it's real. It's going to be announced next month. Anyway, man, we have a lot to go over. The Xbox Indie Showcase just happened. And there was actually some really cool games announced there. Now, I will say this. I do this observation thing where I like to look at creators on the other side of the platform, PlayStation creators, and I noticed a lot of PlayStation creators kind of completely ignore indie games altogether. They don't talk about them. They don't promote them. They don't do anything with them. And I saw a few reactions to this showcase just being announced, and they had no interest in watching because there's not going to be any AAA bangers. And I thought that's kind of a shame because all the experimental stuff with risk taking comes from indie developers. Like, I love my AAA games with shiny graphics and big worlds and detailed characters, but indie games offer something different. And yeah, I think it's just a shame people think like that. Anyway, I'll go over the list. So, Axiom Verge 2, it's basically a Metroid game. Actually, it's almost exactly like Metroid. It got announced for Switch about 2 years ago, and I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to come to Xbox. But anyway, it got announced today with a shadow drop. It's already out. You can play it on your Xbox, which is pretty cool. There's a game called Birth, which is a kind of a puzzle-based physics game. Looks pretty cool. Dreamers, which is it's kind of a sailing puzzle game. One of the big ones which was announced was Everspace 2. That game's going to be big, by the way. The PC version's already available on Game Pass. So the first game was a roguelite set in space. This game, they completely listened to all of the feedback. It's no longer a roguelite. It's an RPG. You have
thank the maker.
Yeah, like I loved like the gameplay of the last game, and even the graphics are still good. But I think for that genre, roguelite does not work for me. But anyway, they listened to the feedback. It's a open world, or should I say, open galaxy RPG where it's space combat. You take missions from other, pilots and all that stuff. Beautiful game. Obviously, it's going to be optimized for Series X and S. And yeah, launches day one on Xbox Game Pass next month. And when that was announced on Kickstarter, they had the Xbox and PlayStation version listed. So that's been a long time. I think it was 2018 that game was originally announced for Xbox. But that was before we had next-gen consoles. So yeah, next month. That's really close and really cool. And I know a lot of people have been looking forward to that. But the fact that they move into being an RPG is massive. They're going to get millions of more players just for changing genres because roguelite puts a lot of people off. Logan, did you play the first one? I know it was kind of niche with it being a roguelite.
No, I did not. I always wanted to jump in, but every time I was about to jump in, I remembered it was a roguelite, and then I didn't. So, because I'm all about space exploration and, ship combat and idea of encountering other players maybe or aliens or all this other really cool stuff like what a Starfield is gonna do or a No Man's Sky does in some aspects. Like I love the idea of those type of games. It's just this one had some of those elements, but it was missing like a kind of a soul to it. So I'm really glad that they've listened to that feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it being a roguelite, the first game, it put like a lot of people like told me they were looking forward to it, and when they found out it was a roguelite, they just stopped like looking forward to it. But anyway, I've got some information here about it. So it's a 30-hour campaign. Yes. 100
Ooh, very good. Sweet spot.
yeah, that's good. That's a good length. 100 handcrafted locations. So there's planets, moons, gas giants, space stations, asteroid fields. It just think of it like Chorus, but it's an RPG. Like that's pretty much what it's like. You upgrade your ship. There's 9 ship types, 7 companions that you can choose from. I mean, what can I say? It's an open space combat RPG, and there's already gameplay people can watch on YouTube. Hours of it, like absolutely awesome looking game. And again, launches day one in Game Pass, August 18th. The next one they showed was Hellboy: Web of Weird, and it's spelled WYRD. Okay. Now it's a third-person, over-the-shoulder action adventure game with brawl and combat. Cool. And I've noticed the visuals have put some people off, but visually it looks exactly like the graphic novels. So I think it looks pretty cool. But again, I think we need more superhero games like that. Jackbox Party Pack Part 10. Some of those games can actually be pretty fun. Now they have I can't pronounce this, so I'm gonna murder its name. Karate. Who, if a developer's listening, I'm sorry. Like I can't say that name properly. It's a 2D inspired game. Kind of got this 80s style to it. Monolith Requiem of Ancients. It's like a 3D platformer. This looks good. Myth Force. It's visually inspired by 90s TV shows or 80s TV cartoons like He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Looks really cool. And next up we have Rain World Downfall, Roman Sands, Scarlet Deer Inn, which is a platformer that's in the style of Pentiment. When I first saw it, I thought, "Oh, this is Pentiment," but apparently it's not. It's a action platformer. Sea of Stars, again, that's a big one. Like I said earlier in the show, I played the demo. It's great. Like if you love old school JRPGs, please play it. The demo is really good. It has some quality of your life features, like you can the save spots all over the place. You can turn the difficulty down by activating an item in your inventory. Just like it's really good. Second Wave, which is a anime inspired MOBA. Solid State. Not gonna lie, I have no idea what that is. Stray Souls, which is a Silent Hill inspired game. A lot of inspired games shown at this showcase. But if you like Silent Hill, pay attention to this. It looks really good. This one's actually going to get millions of players, and I don't think people realize it. It's called Stumble Guys. And yes, it's a rip-off of Fall Guys. You can play it on mobile right now, and it is literally a 100% rip-off. The only advantage is that you're going to be playing against people on mobile, so you're probably going to get a lot of wins. The cool thing about Stumble Guys is that you have more different types of mini games. So in Fall Guys, you have racing and basically survival modes. In Stumble Guys, you have those, but also kart racing and platforming vertically. It's weird, but there's going to be a huge audience for this. Surprisingly. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre launching day one on Xbox Game Pass next month. That's one of those horror multiplayer games. Again, there's a huge market for them on consoles. Vampire Survivors is getting 4-player couch co-op. Wow, that's going to be hectic. Logan, I know you're obsessed with that game.
Oh man, if they add more achievements for couch co-op, I'll jump back in. But I'm kind of burnt out on that one for a little bit.
Yeah, when I last played, I think my eyeballs were like burning because there's just so much going on the screen. And that game won Game of the Year at the BAFTA Game Awards. And it
Well
looked,
deserved.
yeah, and it looks like a game that came out in what, 82. Graphically, it ain't impressive, but it's one of the most addictive games I've ever played. And I think it's one of those games that have like 110 achievements or something, where all the achievements are basically 5 points. So, I mean, hey, I think a lot of people are going to have fun with that. It's a ridiculously fun game, and I can't imagine what that's going to look like on couch co-op on the same TV. It's going to be nuts. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the show. And honestly, it was an indie showcase. If you went in expecting, Red Dead Redemption 3 and, Avowed, I mean, what did you expect? But of course, I did see people in chat at the time asking for GTA 6. Yeah, I'll just call them normies. They don't know any better. Anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, it was a decent showcase, and a lot of those games are coming out soon, which is cool. Before we get into the big stuff, Logan, you reminded me before the show, Jedi Survivor 3 is basically confirmed, which is massive. Jedi Survivor, in my opinion, is one of the 10 out of 10 games ever made. I've only ever given 5 games a full 10. And to me, Jedi Survivor is a full 10. It improved on the first game in every single way. I was disappointed to find out there was less planets, but then the amount of different places you go on the main planet, I was like, okay, it's even better. The gameplay is better. The story's better. The interaction with the characters is better. The hub in the game is better. It actually has a proper hub. The ship, the interactions with everything. It's even more of a Metroidvania now. The fast travel helps the game so much. And there's multiple different types of traversal. Even, using the droid in the game, there's so many more different types of traversal. It has like more than double the enemy types of the first game. Like, they improved the game in every single way. And I was worried about the game because I was thinking, with it being $70, is it going to put a lot of people off from buying it? But it turns out it still sold millions. And yeah, the third game is in development. It started development before the third game shipped. Before the second game shipped, shall I say. Logan, I know you're happy about this as me because that game was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I am euphoric. It was one of those that, when you see it, you're kind of like, well, duh, of course they're going to make one. But until it actually is put out into, stuff is floating out there that it's happening, there's always a little bit of doubt. So I'm just really ecstatic it's happening. Like you, it's one of my best favorite games ever made. It's absolutely incredible. It's my game of the year. It's just brilliant Star Wars and game and just everything wrapped into one. And I can't wait to see where they go with the third one.
Yeah, I mean, for me to give a game a 10 out of 10, I have to basically pick no major flaws with the game. Like, the occasional bug or whatever doesn't bother me, but there has to be something fundamentally wrong or something bothers me. Like, the first Mass Effect game is my favorite game of all time, right? I can't give it a 10 because it had a lot of issues. The secondary quests in that game, boring. The Mako, while it was fun to mess around with, it made some of the side quests next to impossible to get through. The collectibles made that game boring to get through. But it's my favorite game of all time, and I give it a 9. But Jedi Survivor is a 10. Elden Ring, I gave a 10. And what can I say? I mean, I'm happy that there's a new one coming. The cool thing is that Respawn is already working on 2 other Star Wars games at the same time. They have an RTS in development.
Glorious.
Yeah, and a first-person shooter in development. And we all know they can make first-person shooters. I will say this, though. I do hope the MMO comes to console. That is my only worry. Because if you're a console player and want RTS games, every single time there's a new one announced, it's like someone stabbing a little tiny knife into your side and twisting it just a little bit. It's like, I don't know if you saw this, Logan, but during Summer Games Fest, there was a a CGI Star Trek trailer with Borg cubes attacking a planet, and it looks super cool. And I'm like, I want this. I need this. I know it's a CGI trailer, but as the trailer was going on, I'm like, oh, this is going to be an RTS for mobile, isn't it? And what do you know? It's like the past 55 Star Trek games announced over the past few years. They are RTS games for mobile and PC. I'm so burnt out.
That's a buzzkill.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's had that where you see this cool CGI trailer and it's a mobile game. It happens all the time. It happened to me a few weeks ago with there was a new Lord of the Rings mobile game announced with a CGI trailer, and I'm like, I'm ready. I want this. I love Lord of the Rings mobile game. Again, it's like a little tiny knife on my side, just twisting a little bit. But yeah, I don't like it when that happens. But I just hope Respawn know that there's a huge Star Wars fan base out there. We want more good video games. Thankfully, we've had some good ones. Star Wars, Jedi Survivor, Squadrons. We just need more, and I'll take an RTS. But yeah, good to know that the new game's in development. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, we'll have to talk about this. Game preservation. Now, obviously, backwards compatibility has been a big push for Xbox for a long time, and for good reason. We don't want to lose our games every single time we play a new, console or buy a new console. Like, why do people like the fact that, there's a new console coming out, you buy it and knowing that your games won't work? Like, I've always hated it when that happened. And the architecture's changed so many times throughout the years. And when the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 were announced, I was like, finally, we're moving to x86 architecture, basically PCs. We won't have any of this crap going forward. We get to keep our games. And when you fired up an Xbox One or PlayStation 4 at launch and went to the store, do you know there was like 20 games on the store? It was barren on both consoles because there was no PC. And we kind of just accepted it at the same time because, the PlayStation 3, they had the cell architecture, and on the Xbox 360, they basically used a fancy Mac in a Xbox-shaped box, right? But now, I saw this article the other day, and it affects a lot of people, and it said 85% of games released before 2010 aren't available anymore in the US. And I'm guessing it's about the same in the the UK and Europe, but it's going to be around about the same. But it was kind of sad because, like, if you look back, there's so many games we've lost to time, be it licensed games. Like, I always get asked about backwards compatibility games on the channel, and I've got backwards compatibility videos coming soon. But, like, I always get asked, hey, is NCAA football coming to Xbox?
No way.
No. Like, even as a British person, I know for a fact there's no snowball's chance in hell that game will ever come back. Ever. And I assume it's good because I get asked about it at least once a week.
Oh, it's amazing. It's best college football. It was such an awesome experience, and I totally wish it could be. It's just the legal hurdles and the legal nonsense. Like, you think the ABK stuff has been annoying? Like, it would be like that, but different groups and entities they have to deal with about licensing and laws and likeness and rights, and it would just be just a nightmare.
Yeah, and there are licenses that I do think can be worked on and come back, but like when you're talking about sports, and I know people have mentioned a few NASCAR games, like even when it comes to like the advertisements and sponsors on those cars, like it's the reason why most racing games prior to a few years ago aren't available for purchase anymore, because they have to license the cars out. But it was kind of sad because like we do have hundreds of 360 games available. I think we have 40 original Xbox games that you can still buy and play. But like, as time goes on, we're just losing more and more games. And every time a licensed game especially gets announced, I know for a fact that in a few years, that's just going to be going bye-byes. Like, it's not going to be available for purchase anymore. I get asked about the Transformers games all the time, by the way, because I have 2 sealed copies right here, waiting for a rainy day to play. And, like, They aren't backwards compatible yet. Who knows? But it's just a shit. Like, look, what did that stat make you feel like? Because like 85% of games prior to 2010 are not available in the US anymore.
It Well, the first thing is it makes me feel depressed, honestly, because it's like you take aside, gaming, platform allegiances, whatever goofy tribalist, whatever you want to talk about. Like, take that out of it. Like, all these games across all these platforms that so many people have loved, enjoyed, treasured, and experienced with themselves, their friends, their families, others, that people have devoted so much time and effort to make and create and share with the world that they're basically, you know, becoming landfill fodder or being delisted and just poofing and they're gone. And, quite a few of them because of legal clauses and contracts and, licensing are like, oh, there was a 3.5 second appearance of this in the game. So, and we had to have a contract for this. So, well, guess it's gone now. Or, songs or, oh, there's a Ford Mustang in this game, so we have to license with Ford. Or there's a Coca Cola bottle or vending machine. Or, like, I know a Fear games I was playing the other day, and like they had like full on Dell computers in the game and stuff like that. So it's like all these things have so much stuff that you just don't even think about just in the background or in the games that are causing problems. And then some of them are because of hardware or software problems where they've lost source code, like Konami deciding Comic Sans is the proper font for Silent Hill HD Collection, or suddenly fog is obscuring parts of the town that it shouldn't, or Square Enix, we give them grief all the time how they lost part of the source code for some of their Final Fantasy games, and like it's just become a massive issue. And that's one huge reason why during the quote dark times of Xbox I stuck with Xbox, because of backwards compatibility. Like, I've spent decades like curating this library of mine, and the fact that I could play them and continue to enjoy them and try new games I missed or re-experience in different ways or share with others and all this was super important to me. And the fact that it let me do that when others didn't was a big factor. And it's paid off tenfold. And I think just recent events and this story in particular really drive that point home, that if you care about your older games and want to experience them better than ever and carry them forward or share with others, then you know the platform that is going to best enable that. And hopefully, with this ABK thing looking like it's going to wrap up, hopefully we can get a few more from the Life Raft from the ABK Vault and get them onto modern platforms and celebrate that.
Yeah, I will be talking about the Activision thing in a minute, but I do hope like there's more care put into this topic, because man, like, look, people might say I hate the PlayStation side of it. Like, it's such a shame that there's an entire generation of games on that console just poof gone. Like, you can't play them anymore, and that is like horrible. Like, if you had a PlayStation 3 that generation as your main console, congratulations, you can't play any of your games unless you have a PlayStation 3 still hooked up. And I still have mine hooked up, by the way, but it is loud. It's not even worth turning on anymore. It's like, it's awful how loud it is. I wear gaming headphones, and I can hear the console over the headphones. That's ridiculous, and it's clean. I just hope like something needs to be done about it, because you shouldn't have to rely on you using like emulation or like pirating and all that stuff. Like, there should be a more viable option for this stuff. I always talk about Metal Gear Solid 4 because I love that game, but my option is either play it on PC, and you need a super powerful PC to play that, like PlayStation 3 games, or you have a PlayStation 3 still hooked up. And I know what that's like. It's terrible. It's loud. The controller's awful. The controller, by the way, that controller feels like it was made by Fisher-Price. Like, awful plastic. But yeah, I hate the fact this is just happening all the time. Like, look at Quantum Break. Quantum Break got delisted like a few months ago due to, like, I think it was one song. Thankfully, they fixed it within 2 weeks or something. The same thing happened with Alan Wake. A licensed song they had to fix, you know. Thankfully, you can buy all versions of that again. But, man, it's just happening all the time. And I was looking at my shelf of all my 360 games that aren't backwards compatible. And there's one I always mention, and it's called The Saboteur. It's a...
Oh, that one, yes.
Yeah, that game is incredible. It's a GTA-style game set in World War II Paris. And parts of the city... the city's in black and white until you liberate them. And then the game's beautiful and colourful again. But it combines elements of Assassin's Creed as well, with the climbing and assassinations and all that stuff. And it's incredible. Incredible. I think that game was made by Paradox Interactive, which doesn't exist anymore. But, like, I hate the fact that I can't play that on a new console. And apparently that game isn't backwards compatible due to one song which is like 60 years old or something, like 100 years old. It's terrible. And there's so many games, and like, if people have been following me for a while, you know I love the Xbox 360 generation. Most of my favorite games come from that generation, but there's so many games stuck there that we will never see ever again because the developers don't exist anymore, or the publishers don't want to bother with, you know, relicensing content. Like, look at the Metal Gear Solid collection that's coming out this year. We're getting 90% of the same crap we've already had, but they had to pull the original games from the stores because of World War II footage, which they had to relicense, and now they're going to be selling them again in a new format. But hey, it's happening, and things need to get better. Anyway, we need to go into the big topic now. But before people get all hyped for our stuff, if you're enjoying the show, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. It really, believe me, it really does help the channel out. Super chats are live if you want to support the channel and all that stuff. So, today, we got the big news, and I wasn't even expecting it this week. I thought it was going to be put off, but the FTC lost its case for an injunction against the Microsoft purchase of Activision Blizzard King. Oof. Now, beautiful. I think there was people hoping it wouldn't happen. There was people that really wanted it to happen. Like, obviously, as an Xbox content creator, I wanted it to happen. As a fan, I definitely wanted it to happen. But I've mentioned this a million times that every time I've said, like the FTC was meant to be for, and the same with the CMA, they were meant to be for the consumer, for competition. And not a single person has ever been able to answer this question. How does Activision games going into Game Pass affect me negatively as a consumer? Not a single person has been able to give me a proper answer. And I've been asking this question for a year, by the way. Not a single person. And, you know, I have the occasional reply saying, making something up, maybe about, like, you know, charging people for Xbox Live Gold for World of Warcraft. Just, like, absolutely out there things that don't even make sense. And anyway, 18 months from the purchase happening, it's almost done. Logan, you know all the legal jargon and all that stuff, but what's going on and what's next?
Well, basically, today was Victory Day. Like, it's all over but the singing at this point. Essentially, Microsoft, like, thankfully, Judge Corley, she understood that basically the position she was put in was basically like, you either rule in favor of preliminary injunction, and Activision Blizzard has testified basically that they would take the $3 billion and walk away. Like, they don't have, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, basically they're done with the whole waiting around and dragging this out more. Like, if they had gotten a PI, it was looking very much likely that they would just walk away, or the board had advised them to walk away. Was essentially how Bobby Kotick had spun it, kind of. Whether that left wiggle room, I don't know, but basically implied that they would probably walk away. So she had to not only weigh that, with also like the FTC's case. How strong was it? How strong was Microsoft's defense? Like, and then for a PI, the major thing for it is there a immediate, irreversible, just damaging threat that would happen at once if this was allowed to happen? Like the bar for a PI is pretty high, and so clearly, I mean, if you followed this case from the beginning, it should have been obvious from a legal standpoint, from a economic standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, from a geographic standpoint. All these different facets were in Microsoft's favor for this case. Like literally, the vast majority of the cases that people would bring up against it were ideological about tech bad, tech scary, or we don't want to we don't want big companies to buy anything even though it's two big companies agreeing to work with each other or anything like that. It's basically like stop at all costs, protect Sony, just like even the judge called that out, like, which was hilarious. Like, even in her writings, if you look in her, I think it was like 53-page decision document, like, she even has a thing about how, yeah, I get why Sony didn't want this to happen. It's bad for Sony, but it's great for consumers and Call of Duty and video gamers and future gamers to come. Basically, she's like, yeah, this is actually doing what it's bloody supposed to be doing. Like you want competition, like you stimulate competition. You don't step inside and go, hey now, the market leader doesn't like this. You're getting a little too close to his turf. You need to back off. You're not that guy, pal." It's like you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to let competition happen and only intervene if it's something that is so unfair, so crippling, so damaging that it affects throws the entire industry into turmoil and affects consumers and it's like price gouging and just exploitive stuff, just bad stuff. And so the fact that she saw through that immediately in the case, like if you listen to the hearings and the summaries, she's sharp. She was seeing through that pretty quickly. And she wrote out a very precise, very well defined piece going through every single point. She did give the FTC credit in some of her aspects. Like, they did raise enough of a point here that is a valid thing about this might be a different market for console this versus that. Or, cloud could theoretically do this or this. But in this standard or in this aspect, it is not. And so she was very thorough, and I'm just incredibly impressed that someone basically transported a casual from outside of the gaming realm, put her face first into the biggest antitrust case, biggest gaming case in decades, and basically gave her a crash course in a week of the entire gaming industry, and she had a better knowledge and understanding and comprehension of all of its facets in a week than the opposition who decided to twiddle thumbs for 18 months. It was just, it's just comically, it's glorious.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive that the judge actually, knew the stuff because, like, we always hear about these people that like judge the gaming industry off just finding out about it and they know nothing. The boomer politicians that know nothing. The ones that blame video games for everything bad happening in the world. So like that was a big danger for Microsoft when it came to this because like from the outside looking in, if you don't know anything and you think, right, scary Microsoft, $2 trillion wanting to buy Activision and they have COD. right? That would scare someone off. But she actually knew what she was talking about. And by the way, the judge was a lady, right? Just so I'm not mixing it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Judge Elizabeth Corley, I believe.
Okay, right, thank you. Like she knew what she was talking about. And like knowing like Sony's history with like, you know, paying for exclusivity, the whole thing about Sega being pushed out of the market came up. Like it all came out. Like Sony had a bunch of redacted material because like look, Sony does know what they've done in the past. Like they haven't been all sunshine, rainbows, you know, and all that stuff. Like like farting unicorns. Like they've been like shady as hell in the past. Like why do you think they have so much third party exclusivity and third party content, and games go there even like a day early or a month early? You know, hell, they got the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remaster like during the pandemic. I think it came out. They got that a month early. Like it doesn't benefit anyone, and they do all these deals all the time. And this was going to be a different topic, but we can rope it in with this because like people in the industry, and it disgusts me that they still do this. People in the industry, and I won't mention what media outlets or YouTube channels, they act like Sony is this little tiny mom and pop shop that make cookies for the elderly. They completely deny the fact that Sony bought their way into the industry like they did in the 90s, which they did. There's videos of them talking about how they bought up exclusivity for a ton of games in the 90s, and people like to pretend that didn't happen. And Microsoft, they've been on their back foot this entire bloody generation, going back since 2013, trying their best to get a foot forward. And then this Activision Blizzard thing would actually move the needle just a tiny bit in some regions, and everyone acts like Sony's like goody two shoes. They've been doing dodgy crap for years. Oh, what's this? Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be exclusive to PlayStation for a year, and then 2 years, and then lifetime. And it's happening over and over and over again. And it's gotten to a point now when a game's announced, people say to me, hey, is that going to come to Xbox? Like people just automatically think now these games are going to be exclusive to PlayStation. It doesn't matter who's developing it, right? That Black Panther game that got announced yesterday, the amount of people I saw saying, hey, it's PlayStation exclusive, because they saw it was a Marvel game and then just assumed, right? Even though it's an EA game. And, you know, that was the big danger with this whole, like, you know, if they gotten a judge that didn't do their research, it would have went the other way, basically. Because Sony is a $100+ billion corporation that doesn't need protection, yet people in the gaming industry act that way. Right? People may know who I'm talking about, but they act like Sony just nurtures these developers and they organically get these companies, when the truth is, no, they pay through the nose for content. We all know this. We all see it on a yearly basis. It's been happening since the 90s. Sega no longer makes bloody consoles because of the whole situation. Sega was almost completely done altogether because of Sony helping push them out of the business, right? So it's all worked basically. I think, you know, when it comes to this whole situation, by the way, Logan, we have to talk about the reactions, right?
Oh my goodness.
So, like, you know, before I get into the reactions, like, the CMA is apparently now interested in talking to Microsoft about, you know, having things sorted. There will be some concept.
Ain't that funny timing, right?
Yeah, it's because they looked stupid, right? They're basically one of the only places on Earth that, and bear in mind, our Prime Minister has said that he doesn't agree with the CMA, right? The CMA shouldn't really have final say, and as we've seen by documents in the past, they were protecting Sony. They weren't protecting consumers. They weren't protecting competition. Market leaders in the UK are extremely protected just because. Maybe it has something to do with some political funding or anything. Like, look at Apple, right? I use iPhones, right? I'll admit that. But Apple have been the number one source of tablets and phones in the UK for over a decade, and they are protected. We have this thing in the UK called Apple tax. We all call it that. An Apple product can come out in the US and it's $1,000, and we'll get charged £1,300 because they can. These products are also made in China. So they get protected, and Sony was being protected. Even though in the past, Sega, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox have all been number one at some point. But this past generation, things have changed. Sony had a foothold, and finally, Microsoft can finally move the needle in an age where people have their digital libraries. And maybe people will have an incentive to maybe buy an Xbox so they can play things in Game Pass and experience their exclusives, because they have an incentive now with, future Call of Duties and all that stuff going to Game Pass day one or whenever down the line it happens. But yeah, the reactions today have been absolutely beautiful. Bloody beautiful. Like, I don't like mentioning other creators specifically, but I'm going to. Saltiest Gaming, one of the most toxic people in the gaming space, removed his account because of this going through. By the way, that just made the community even better, because we don't need that in the community. Gaming is a lot better without that. Like, Logan, you've probably seen some funny receipts today, because Twitter today has been 90% receipts and 10% memes.
Oh, today's been a glorious, glorious day. This has definitely been the get your finest scotch or your finest cigars or whatever your celebration of choices, and just it's been coupon receipt day, big time. And I had some really, really spicy tweets potentially lined up, but I'm like, you know what? I won't go there. I'll just have fun with it, and just, go to town and have fun, and just tweet a bunch of just goofy and, make fun of the whole thing, and just go wild tweets instead of, calling out in specifics. But there's definitely been receipts read today, and people, some people are like, oh, come on, this is tacky or this or this. I'm like, you know what? You spend 18 months following something and waiting for something and getting all kinds of just nasty, insane garbage thrown at you, and seeing all this mudslinging and all this stuff brought to light from this case, that, by golly, like, when that deal was approved, or basically it's going to be allowed to happen, you better believe that the people were like, all right, it's showtime, let's roll. And so they were waiting. They were done holding the line. It was time to charge. So it's been a great monumental day in Xbox history. It's been a glorious day, and the Dead Sea pales in comparison. Like, you want to see high sodium levels, you know where to go. I don't recommend it for your health, but it's been a great day.
Yeah, it's the sodium's been all over the place. Reset Era is Mount Salt Olympus. Like, that place is salty. And look, this is why I've seen some people say why Xbox fans are happy about. This is why Xbox fans are happy. Every time there's something bad happens, or something that could be considered negative in the Xbox space, the fandom goes completely nuts, and it's the end of Xbox. It doesn't matter how big of an issue it is or how little of an issue it is. It doesn't matter if Microsoft's going to do something that a different company does. People act like it's the end of Xbox. It's happening for years. And Xbox fans needed a win, because PlayStation raised the price of games. Everybody just let it happen. PlayStation fans are like, you know what? These games are okay being more expensive. And then Microsoft announced the price raise a few years later. It's the end of Xbox, right? Whether you agree with the price raising in general or not, people treated the price announcement completely differently. Sony, it was allowed. Sony was allowed. Xbox, it wasn't. Before I continue, we have another super chat by Hacky Sack. Thank you very much for $2. He says, now we can stop talking about Activision Blizzard. Yeah. As soon as this deal's finally done, it looks like it's going to be extremely soon. Even the days, we are done. Finally. But yeah, and plus, look, we've been talking about this for 18 months. I don't want to talk about this for 18 months. I was naive to think, oh yeah, it's going to be done in a month. Hey, maybe by summer. 18 months later, I think I've gained grey hairs because of it. I'm fed up with the Activision Blizzard thing. I make content. Finally, I'm going back to weekly videos, thankfully, from tomorrow. And it's an exciting time because we have more stuff to talk about. And we had a bunch of games announced, which I have to cover on the channel anyway. But, like, we're finally getting to a point where it's done. Almost done. But yeah, thank you very much for the $2 super chat, Hacky Sacked. But yeah, the salt's been all over the place. And do I enjoy seeing people upset because Microsoft won? Do I enjoy or getting any, satisfaction or whatever out of it? Yeah, I'll admit. I'll put it like this. People see me post these dumb replies I get all the time. The truth is, I don't actually post 90% of the dumb replies I get. Right? I don't even post the worst ones. I've had absolutely demented replies before over completely nothing. I could post a clip of Mass Effect and I'll have some person say some really awful things to me. But I just move on with it. However, magically enough, I haven't had a single bad reply today. Not one.
Oh, it's been quiet as a church mouse today.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Not a single person has replied to... Like, there's these porn bots on Twitter recently, I've noticed, that reply to every single tweet. But, I mean, I just block them and move on. But, like, I haven't had a single negative reply today at all. In fact, I haven't seen anything. I've seen a few people, like, threaten that judge in a disgusting way, but, like, that happens every single time there's anything like this, which is awful, and they need to condemn it and report that person. But I haven't had a single bad reply. It's amazing. And... like, people are salty. People are saying the deal was done ages ago, and like, Microsoft got a win, right? Microsoft's been getting better for years now. In 2018, they started purchasing studios. Why? Because, they needed to. They had a handful of studios, and they've been trying to get better since. Like, look, in the short term, does this actually affect Xbox gamers? In my opinion, it doesn't. If it went the other way, would it affect Xbox gamers in the short term? No. But this is long-term game. This is end-game stuff. Microsoft, they are looking years down the line for this. Eventually these games will pop into Game Pass, but it's going to get to a point where you're going to be getting Call of Duty in Game Pass, Diablo in Game Pass. You're going to have a rich catalogue of games of Activision's past titles in Game Pass, and that's exciting to people. There's people... I know that will pay specifically for Game Pass just to play old COD titles. And then old COD games are going to have massive multiplayer lobbies again, right? Call of Duty Black Ops is going to have a really popular library on the console again because it'll just be in Game Pass. You can just download it and play. And it's perfect timing for Microsoft because you have this win. The whole thing's probably going to end soon. You have Starfield coming out in September. You have Forza coming out in October. They have this like string of wins going along where they needed some positivity when they needed it most. And this is going to be a push for more consoles to be sold because, Starfield and all that stuff. People are going to be jumping into the ecosystem for the first time because of this deal. Like, I put it like this. When the deal was announced in January last year, I went to my local supermarket to buy a gift card, and the person behind the counter, who I've never interacted with before, saw the Xbox card and said, "Did you hear about the Activision, deal thing?" And he mentioned Game Pass, Call of Duty and Game Pass. Like, that is a massive deal. If you only pay and play Call of Duty every year, that subscription looks entertaining. That subscription looks promising. Like, one of my mates who mainly played first-person shooters, I mentioned this before, he's probably listening right now, and hi, we need to go to the pub again soon, but, like, he used to play mainly first-person shooters, and now he plays everything, because of Game Pass. I got him to different genres. Like, and that's going to happen to all these people that play, Call of Duty. These people that only play Call of Duty will go from playing one game a year to several, to hundreds even. And that's great. And nobody loses. Call of Duty is still going to be on PlayStation, right? Call of Duty is going to go to Nintendo's platform. Although I do think it'll be the Switch 2, which is probably going to be next year, which is meant to be March, if we're going off rumors. But, like, Call of Duty is going to have a bigger fan base. more players. That game has crossplay. Switch gets to have, or Nintendo gets to have the first Call of Duty game they've had since Black Ops 2. And it's a good time. Right? Nobody loses out. And every time I've made a post about how everyone wins, developers win, developers have a safer environment to develop games in, like, it's a win. It's an absolute win for everyone. And, you have people like that salty guy deleting their Twitter accounts. Like, you have people making spaces sounding like they're panicking. You have people making YouTube videos almost sweating, wondering what they're going to do, maybe wearing sunglasses because they may be tearing up. I don't know who. But it's funny to see this reaction because for the past 18 months, we've had Microsoft bad. They can't buy studios. They need to nurture them. They need to be organic. And now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing all over the place, should Sony buy Square Enix? Should they maybe?
Two.
Yeah. There's going to be a new showcase. Like, I swear, and people can find the tweets. Today, I've seen multiple like big PlayStation-centric Twitter accounts post, "Hey, are you looking forward to the Sony's second showcase this year?" Like, what second showcase? Like, the rumored one. Like, the rumored one that was going to be last September. Like, they're going to buy Square Enix. And here's the thing about Square Enix, by the way, which none of these people will ever mention. They will post Sony buying, Square Enix confirmed, and they'll get some likes, right? What they don't realize is, if Sony buys Square Enix, nothing changes. Square Enix games are de facto exclusive to PlayStation anyway. We don't get those games. So Sony would literally be paying billions to own a publisher they already get exclusives for. But with this deal going along, yes, Call of Duty still goes to other platforms, but maybe a Singularity 2 comes to Xbox only. Diablo goes to Game Pass. Stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a beautiful day. I've seen receipts all day. And again, I don't take that much, joy in people's reactions to this. But man, being told for months in the past year that it's not going to happen, and then it does, and it's basically almost over and done with. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Logan, I mean, what can I say? It's been a long time coming. It's been 18 bloody months, and we're finally close to the finish line. How do you feel?
Oh, I'm euphoric, man. We're almost at the end of the yellow brick road. We've we've gone through all the places. We followed the road this whole time. There's been distractions, there's been deviations, but we're almost at the end of the yellow brick road now. And it just basically what's left is CMA just immediately after the FTC preliminary injunction was rejected. They and Microsoft jointly agreed to pause litigation and sit down and try to decide a appropriate settlement to make this thing go away and just be done with it. And then a little while after that, it came out from CNBC that apparently the CMA and Microsoft have tentatively agreed to some small divestiture, probably cloud related, to basically settle their concerns about cloud. Whether that's and this is purely hypothetical because I haven't seen details since I've been on here. I haven't been on Twitter. So if somebody in the comments section has seen a new article or something, let us know. But basically, from prior to the show, it was that people were speculating, Jez, Cord, and others, that it was either going to be like an xCloud thing, or maybe xCloud is just is removed from the UK or decoupled from Game Pass and it's separate thing, or Xbox just doesn't have COD on Game Pass or cloud, or ABK on cloud, or maybe Microsoft becomes a supplier for cloud and not a service in the UK, like some small minute thing that's a technicality that would make the CMA to pat themselves on the back that they made a stand for the good people of the UK, and they won a concession, and bravo, and they can save themselves from a court thing like what just happened to this FTC. Because basically, as soon as they saw the FTC get knocked, they're like, okay, writing's on the wall, let's talk. And so it seems like that is imminent, and they should announce that shortly. And after that, it is basically unless the FTC somehow gets a Hail Mary appeal approved where they put a stop on it or something, then it's looking like this sucker's going to close Sunday or Monday. We'll be done. And then, New Zealand and Australia, those other countries, like, I'm sure they'll fall in line once that's done. I mean, they could not, but you would think that'd be insane. But if they didn't, but basically, the FTC had a little kind of a little irritated response, and some spokesman was basically like, "We're disappointed in this. We see that there's clear threats in these areas," and they listed off their concerns, which Judge Corley curb stomped. But they listed off those and then said, we'll be assessing and announcing our forthcoming efforts to protect consumers in the coming days. So whether that reads as they're going to try to appeal anyway, even though they just got thoroughly annihilated in court, or if that means, okay, we're going to push lawmakers and stuff for new regulation and laws, or they're going to go after a different big fish and go really after them, remains to be seen. But like I said, unless they somehow get a judge to go, wow, Judge Corley has all this stuff and I think it's wrong, I'm going to grant a PI immediately or a temporary restraining order. Unless they got a pie in the sky, Hail Mary type thing, which would go against 50 plus years of precedent and all this other stuff. Unless something crazy happens like that, this thing looks like it closes Sunday, Monday. We celebrate, drink the green Kool-Aid, the fight is won, the battle's over, rejoice, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Tony Hawk, everybody in Game Pass. Let's roll.
It's funny. I've just checked Twitter and Take-Two's trending because people are wanting Sony to buy them. Top trending.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, top trending gaming tweets in the UK is the CMA, Jim Ryan, and ponies. Like,
Anime for why?
Yeah, like it's been funny, but I mean, like the important part is it's almost done. It's pretty much looking that way. I think that funny thing is when that was announced, 10 hours ago or something. One of the first posts I saw is, Sega next. Like, people are already looking at who Microsoft can purchase next. I think it will be a while. I think they're obviously going to continue to buy studios and that, but I think the whole them purchasing a publisher thing will never happen again, ever. I think they will go for, developers, because clearly they just, get that it's allowed. But, I think it's going to be exciting because Activision, they can get back to making games that aren't just COD in the future, which is exciting. Like I've mentioned before, I want Guitar Hero to come back. I really do.
Amen.
Like proper Guitar Hero, none of that 2 rows of buttons crap, what they tried to do 5 years ago. Like proper Guitar Hero. I want Guitar Hero 2 stuff. Just give me Guitar Hero 2 remastered so I can play Foo Fighters, right? And I'm good.
Oh, and the Mjolnir song and Top Gun and all that other stuff was on that.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, I got so good with one song on Guitar Hero 2. It was Monkey Wrench by Foo Fighters. I was able to play it without looking, because I played that hundreds of times. Guitar Hero was just fun. Like as fun as people might make fun of Activision all the time because it's just Call of Duty, because that's pretty much all they do now. But like back in the day, they were coming out with like all these cool titles. You know, the Transformers games, Singularity, which I'm going to talk about for the thousandth time. But like Guitar Hero was so much fun. You know, the fact that they can bring like Blizzard games to Xbox now, like they basically can have all their studios, which are now basically Call of Duty support teams, and make something else, and that's exciting to me. Again, I want Guitar Hero back, proper Guitar Hero. But yeah, it's been a good day. It's been a good day. And the thing is, I just opened up Twitter, and the receipts are still going. And funny enough, still not a bad reply. So, hey, it's been good for everyone except the FTC. And yeah, Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
No, just that once again, I really, really hope that the BC team, this gives them one last little barrage that they can do. And hopefully they were working on it in the hypothetical chance that the deal went through. That they could, release as part of a celebration announcement. Like a singularity for backwards compatibility. Or some of the older Tony Hawks. Or the Crash Bandicoot Spyro games on the OG and 360. Like, some of those games. I know, obviously the Transformer games would be rather difficult, but maybe they could do them disc only. Or, some of the older Marvel games. But, like, if they could get one last, like, alright, guys, we didn't think we would get this deal done, or we never thought this would even be possible, but hey, we had 70 billion and we were able to buy ABK, and now we have games we didn't think we'd have. So, we made them BC, enjoy. I'm just so hoping that happens.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, there has been that rumor that they are working on backwards compatibility titles for, Activision games. I mean, they did say a while ago they are done, but then again, they said that in 2019. So, I mean, who knows what will happen? But hey, again, it's been a good day. I think Xbox fans needed this win because everything is always taken over the top and people don't know what's what. Like, keep in mind, Microsoft can do something silly that doesn't really affect anyone, and people will act like it's the end of the world. This was a good win, and like Xbox, they keep saying, this whole Activision deal, it's because of mobile and all that stuff, and mobile plans. I think at the end of the day, you can look at the studios they own and the IP they have. Like, Microsoft clearly has bigger plans. Phil Spencer has even mentioned Guitar Hero before in all those studios. Like, I honestly think down the line, Call of Duty will no longer be a yearly franchise. I 100% believe that. Hell, this year's Call of Duty, by the way, wasn't actually meant to come out. It was meant to be an expansion. But obviously, Bobby Kotick thought we can get $70 again out of them. So that's why we're getting Modern Warfare 3 this year, which still hasn't been announced, by the way. Crazy stuff. But yeah, good times. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week ahead. In between now and next week's show, we should have a lot more information. But when it comes to the podcast topics of ABK stuff, hardcore, I think we're pretty much over and done with, which is really good. And we get to talk about games mainly now because there should be a lot of stuff coming. And I'm going to mention the BC stuff a lot, especially a video that should be coming tomorrow. Has something to do with Activision, Blizzard, and BC stuff. So people should look forward to that. But yeah, today's been a long time coming. It looks like it's pretty much over and done with. And yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Again, I have a video coming out tomorrow. Again, Activision, Blizzard, backwards compatibility stuff. Good times ahead. Anyway, everyone in chat's been awesome today. Again, no porn bots. They are done. Everyone in chat's always great on this show. We'll be back next week. And yeah, we're out. Peace, everybody.